Okay, for your Rhodes Island application, we're just gonna run through your qualifications real quick. I have flashbang arts and a big-ass sword. I also have a big-ass sword and Japanese steakhouse flambe experience. Who the fuck is that? What are you doing here? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? What the hell? Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Artificers aren't even that bad. I clickbaited you. How does it feel to be a victim of my cunning? Remember when I talked about summoners? How I asserted that summoners weren't actually bad operators, just high scale? Yeah, go ahead and copy and paste all of that onto Artificers. Artificers make me think, and I don't like it. I much prefer slathering myself in my own thick, viscous dumbassery and pretending everything's okay. The deal with Artificers is that they bring little trinkets along with them that do various things. Some useful, some less useful. I'm sugarcoating it here, some of this shit is really bad. But on the flip side of that coin, some are pretty darn neat. Again, Artificers aren't a bad class, I'm just too dumb to use them properly. There is one goofy little stipulation on Artificers devices though. Only 2 can be deployed at a time, 3 if you include the X module that all 5 of them have. That means that you don't just need to think about what the devices do and where they're useful, but also when and how many you're deploying at a given time. It's just a lot to think about, and I don't think anyone will find it surprising when I tell you that thinking is not really my strong suit. Artificers are decent operators that never see any use because using them is taking the path of most resistance. It's pushing a boulder up a hill. We're gotcha gamers. We're lazy. We're not cosplaying Sisyphus if we don't have to. If you've played Arknights substantially, you've likely realized that 4 stars are better than their 5-star counterparts shockingly often. 5 stars typically don't really do that much more than 4 stars, but demand quite the investment. They're greedy fellows. Roberta is difficult to talk about because she's good, but I have never been able to emulate that for myself. Skill issue, you say? Well, yes, you're right. It is a skill issue. I'm quite bad at this game, and streaming, and most things I do, actually. Roberta's modelers grant their target a shield, and technically a defense buff too, but who gives a shit about that? It's like when they ask if I want whipped cream on my coffee. Why? Because it looks nice? How the hell am I even supposed to eat this? With a spoon? What matters is the actual coffee, I mean shield. A shield tanks 1 hit completely, independent of context. 1 shield will nullify 1 instance of damage, be it a love tap from a wolf or a fucking orbital strike. Basically, if you can identify what's dangerous and what isn't, Roberta becomes an exploding kitten's nope card. As far as operator preservation goes, she is very solid, if you can use her properly. If you can identify where dense attacks are originating, if you can time when and where those attacks will land, if you can track how productive your healers are, if you can be sure you don't already have 2 modelers down, then Roberta is legitimately good. It is also worth noting that she doesn't really need to be leveled to be effective. Yes, E2ing her bumps the shield count to 2, but 1 is typically enough for most situations. Also, Rhinelab. We stand Rhinelab operators on this channel. Alright, we all knew this was coming. Windflit is notoriously terrible, and unfortunately I'm not about to tell you otherwise. He's bad. But his weapon is also a gigantic fucking wrench, so at least that's pretty cool. Windflit summons are called reliable batteries, which is painfully ironic because they're about as reliable as the dodge mechanic. In theory, they're not terrible, all they do is grant an attack buff, but it's a really useless buff, even when it's doubled. At least it is on a bunch of fucking supporters. I'm gonna give you a second here to read his talent. Like, really read it. Take it all in. What am I even supposed to say? I'm genuinely asking. What the fuck is this? It should really go without saying that all Artificers make for dogshit DPS. They belong off in some bum-ass corner of the map where they can't get in the way. So please tell me why Windflit's S2 boosts his attack by 160%. Who cares? Boost the battery buff more so you can at least pretend to be helping. But don't worry, I hear you, Windflit fans. Don't forget his S1. It's SP recovery. SP recovery is always good, except it requires Windflit to attack, which sucks, and then only restores 1 SP anyway. 1. I'm not driving to the grocery store to purchase a singular grape, or 1 walnut. I mean, I like walnuts, but no. You know what, I'm done, whatever. Giant wrench, it's cool, good enough. Everybody say hello to genderbent Windflit. She's somehow even worse than him, which, like, how? And her wrench is a paltry 3 feet in length. Disgraceful. But hold, Alana is salvaged by one important fact. She's a rim billionaire, billionaire? Like a billion? Who fucking cares? She's from the Arknights realm of Danger Noodles and Shelob and actually has an Australian accent. Let's fucking go! But, as is the law, I like a character so she's destined to flirt with the absolute bottom of the barrel. Remember how Windflit's batteries provided an attack buff that isn't very useful and only applies to certain operators? Well, what if I were to tell you that Alana's Nutty, that's the device's name, provides an even worse buff that also only applies to certain operators? Alana's shtick is ignoring defense. 90 defense. If you're thinking that doesn't sound like a very big number, it's because it isn't. Nutty is completely unusable on anyone who deals arch damage and completely unnoticeable on anyone who doesn't. But hey, at least her S2 buffs her attack speed, so we get more wrench more often. I like wrenches. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I just think they're neat.
Yes, 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 yes! We love older women. In a game so profusely saturated with waifu slop, it's the hags that truly shine the brightest. What? No, what are you doing? Get out of here. You see, I'm the kind of guy who will never not appreciate age diversity in my gacha. Not everyone needs to be some hot teen. How about some more bitches who know what a floppy disk is, huh? Catherine is tall, British, and by some miracle, not the harbinger of suffering and stupid gimmicks. Her device's crawlers produce barriers, which are like shields but more effective in dealing with smaller, faster attacks as opposed to nuclear weapons. Catherine is the only artificer who lacks the ability to produce more devices in the midst of a stage, but her support is usually the most effective on frontline defenders or guards anyways, and not having any time constraints is a fair bit less stressful. I'm not gonna say Catherine is amazing, but I guarantee she makes a mean treacle tart. Welcome all to today's edition of I'm Not Gay. But Stainless has 3 skills, and each one allows his devices to do wildly different things. Skill 1 is just straight damage. It's boring and never worth using over his S3. His second skill, however, is rather interesting due to it being an SP battery. I briefly touched on this when I talked about Windflit, but Arknights centers around SP. Most operators provide significantly better output with their skill active, so gaining SP faster is almost always super useful. Unfortunately for him, Windflit's SP generation is incidental, requiring him to attack in order to produce it. Stainless's S2 on the other hand provides a steady stream of SP to target operators, 1 every 3.5 seconds, or 2 with the skill active. He's not the best SP battery or anything, Tea Applesauce does still exist, but he is still very underappreciated in that regard. And the reason this skill is underutilized is because everybody's too busy fucking around with his railgun. S3 is entertaining as heck. His devices gain American citizenship and a masochistic kink. Allied operators can attack them to build up a charge. Once it's taken enough damage, the bazooka will automatically deal respectable area damage. This skill is fun because it's versatile, which is to say you can do some dumbass shit with it. Is it practically useful? Sometimes. But in all honesty, it's really not ideal for harder content, just shenaniganery. Stainless is a perfectly serviceable operator that doesn't specialize in much of anything aside from making me think things I really shouldn't be thinking. Also, his beach outfit is fucking adorable and I will not hear otherwise. I like Artificers the way I like my coffee. Well, no, actually I don't. Sorry, I couldn't think of a funny joke for this transition, so you'll just have to make do with this. Artificers are a magnificent pain in the butt that demand way too much effort in most of their approaches, and using them really just boils down to user choice. If you're willing to keep track of a bunch of unnecessary bullshit, they can actually be a lot of fun. Not particularly beneficial to your roster, mind you, but fun. Megatron Cannon, for instance, has severely limited applications, but stacking so many operators behind it becomes a malfunctioning turret is just visually stupid, and I greatly enjoy doing it. Artificers really do fit the role of supporters to a T. They only really function as a side piece to stronger operators, but there are so many operators in this game that just don't need buffing. Their purpose is receding faster than a Discord mod's hairline. True supporters just don't bring much to the table anymore, and what they do provide is locked behind a gate of game sense. They're just too inaccessible to your average gacha dumbass, and I feel like I am a perfect representation of that. I do like them, but I don't use them, because what do they do? I never need to ignore defense, I rarely need a weak barrier, and I don't need shields when half my operators can just tank most hits anyways. Their role just doesn't exist anymore, and that sucks, but it also means I'm interested to see what the devs try with the next Artificer. Assuming they haven't forgotten the archetype entirely, which they wouldn't do. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that, right?